Our guest today who will be sharing that with us, she is an expert on positive psychology. She's a top voice on LinkedIn. She's also a TEDx speaker. And just last year, she made it. She was featured in the Peak Magazine's Power List. And through her work around the world, she has empowered thousands of people with the skills on how to thrive in their careers using a positive psychology and positive communication mindset. And to share those insights with us today, please give a very warm welcome to the founder of Happiness Scientist, Sha-En Yeoh. Round of applause, please.
Thank you, Joel. Hi, good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? If you had a good day, show me a thumbs up. Yeah? If you had a so-so day, don't show me. Okay, good morning. Good morning. I'm still lost in the morning, but I'm really happy to be here today on this topic on positive communication. You know, I want to start with a story. How many of you have ever felt that sometimes when you're talking to someone, you're kind of lost in translation? You say one thing, they heard another thing. Or maybe it's via an email. You had an intention to share something with them. You thought quite a while to craft that email, but they took it the wrong way. How many of you have had this experience of being lost in translation? Yes? And it happens to so many of us. So today what I want to do is to shed light on how we can reduce our misunderstandings, and also at the same time as what Joel has said, to strengthen the communication we have, thereby strengthening the relationships we have in our career. So many years ago, I was working in this particular department and this particular role for maybe about 2 to 3 years. It's not a very long time, but it was a very specific and very niche role. And so I got pretty good at it after 3 years. And then one day, my boss above my boss calls me into the office and she says, you know, Sha-En, we are going to have a new team member. And this new team member is going to come with lots of experience. So I got really excited because, first of all, we are overworked. We need another person on the team. And not only that, this person is supposed to be an experienced person. And why not? Why don't we have more experienced people come to join me? So I was very excited for the day when she was about to arrive. On the morning of the day that she was here, I was out for a meeting, but I thought maybe I will welcome her, right? And write her an email. So let's call her Jenny. And so I said, dear Jenny, welcome to the team. I'm so excited you're here, and I'm pretty sure that you are going to add lots of value to our team. I sent it off, I went for my meeting. After I came out from my meeting, I checked my email and she had replied. And this is what Jenny said in her email. Hi Sha-En, thank you for your welcome. I'm glad to be here. All sounds pretty good, right? Next sentence she said, by the way, I don't really want you to call me by my first name. My name is Mrs. Tan. So next time when you see me, call me Mrs. Tan. Next sentence, see you later, Mrs. Tan. So there I was thinking, I thought I did something really good, right? I want to welcome her. I want to make her feel like she belongs. I want to let her know that I value her experience. But that email left me scratching my head. I was lost. Was she being kind to me by saying, I'm excited to come here? Or was she just trying to assert her years of experience on top of me? That was my interpretation. But one thing I know was that from excitement, I started to feel cautious. I was worried when I arrived back in the office. What is she going to say to me? And of course, I was extremely mindful to call her Mrs. Tan. So what is the problem here? You know, our brains work in a funny way. Although the beginning of that email was positive, where was my attention? My attention was on what didn't appear so positive. This is what psychologists call the negativity bias. We are more prone to notice something like this, the fierce, ferocious lion, than we are to notice something like a beautiful bed of roses. So just imagine this. You're sitting in your living room trying to have something to eat, and suddenly through the door charges a ferocious lion. Scared not? Will you pay attention? Confirm, right? Because if you don't, you were eating lunch, next you become the lion's lunch. But if you're happily eating and suddenly someone sends you a beautiful bouquet of flowers and you don't notice it, will there be any consequences? Not really, but which one would you rather receive? The flowers, of course, lah, right? But the one that you want to pay attention to is the ferocious lion. Our brains are primed for threat. So that is why we notice negative things, negative emotions, negative communication, and those things linger longer in our system than the positive. Now, looking back at the research, what do psychologists say about how important it is to communicate positively? Now, in order to balance out one negative emotion, you need a certain number of positive emotions or communication to balance out that scale. Now, I'll give you a clue. It's a number from 1 to 10. How many positive communication words or emotions do you think is required to balance out that one negative emotion? And I count to 3, you all show me with your fingers, okay? You can use one hand or two hands. You want to use your feet also can. But actually 1 to 10, huh? Okay, I count to 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see 5, I see 3, I see this one 8. That one must go max extreme a 10 down there. So, whoever put 3 got it right. For every single negative emotion or communication that we say or receive, it needs to be balanced out with 3 in order for it to feel okay. So just imagine if you receive negative times 4, you need 4 times 3, 12 positive words said to you in order for it to be balanced out. And if you're the one conveying that to your colleagues, your family members, that balance also needs to be there. And so when we talk about positive communication, it's not about just feeling good. Let's look at what the McKinsey report has said recently in 2024 about why positive communication matters, and particularly why it matters at the workplace. First, people who communicate well, who are more positive, are 2.8% or 2.8 times more efficient. Now think about it. If someone sends an email like Jenny sent to me, and I become cautious, I might not say as much to her following that, and work will be affected, right? How about the next one? 2.7 more times more likely to produce results. How many of you want to have better results at work? Yes, we all do, right? We want to be able to hit our performance targets, hit our KPIs, and being in a positive state of mind, communicating positively, gives us the ability to actually produce better results because the quality of your relationships improve, right? Joel said earlier that Eric, his name is Eric Sim, is a good friend of mine, grew up and became such a high power, not because of where he came from, but because of the relationships that he had built. And so results follow strong relationships. Last of all, 3.1 times more innovative. Barbara Fredrickson, who is a researcher in the area of positive emotions, has found that if we spend more time feeling positive, communicating with each other more positively, we are more open-minded, less judgmental, and more creative. And so if we are more creative, we can come up with new ideas. We can innovate. Okay, so that's the research. But I don't want to spend all the time here on research. I want to give you really practical tools that you can use starting from when you leave this place. Does that sound good? Even with the people at home, yeah? By the way, positive communication starts at home, I believe. Because if you do it at home, you will naturally bring it to the workplace. So this quote is really important. What we say, what we do affects people. When Jenny sent me that email, it affected what I thought of her, but I also had a moment where I doubted, did I do the right thing? It affected how I think about myself. What you say, what you do affects people. And in the moment, it affects who they are and who they become. Your words have a lot of power. So let's look at the 3 pillars of positive communication. Number 1, acknowledge and appreciate actively. Little acts of acknowledgement can go a very long way. Now, many people think that to acknowledge someone, I must be really fancy, I must throw a party, I must make the person stand up in front of everyone. But actually, what people truly want is for whatever work they're putting in to be seen. They want their work to be acknowledged. Right? All of you work hard? Imagine if the only kind of acknowledgement that you get is once a year during performance review. And the remaining 364 days, nobody says anything about the quality of your work. First of all, you would have no idea how to move forward. Second of all, you will feel that you have no motivation. Now, what do these little words of appreciation look like? It could be very simple, like, thank you for doing that. Many people tell me, but Sharon, don't people know that I'm thankful to them? I smile at them. But sometimes, some people appreciate a smile, but sometimes people need to be told. You won't believe the number of people that I've worked with who have worked so many years, but very rarely receive just a simple thank you. It can go a very long way. The second thing you can do is just notice maybe your colleagues staying very late at work and they're very tired. Maybe a little coffee the next morning might be something to perk them up. Trust is built over small little bits of active acknowledgement over time, right? So the next time you see your colleague, don't forget to say thank you. It could even be a little note that you just put on the table. I appreciate your help during that project. Thank you for bringing up that idea during the meeting. Your words have power, and the positive words make people feel good. The second thing that we can do, or the second pillar, is constructive conversations. Now, I have a question for all of you. How many of you have avoided a difficult conversation? For example, maybe you had a disagreement with someone at work. It's very tense, just like me and Jenny. You know that you want to bring it up, but every time you think about bringing it up, you decide, don't want lah. Maybe it will affect our relationship. How many of you have avoided a tough conversation before? Yes? Those of you never raised hand, confirm also have. It's true. Whether it's in our personal life or in our work life. And the reason is because we don't like to face conflict. A. B. The emotions that come up during that time are very uncomfortable and they make us feel really awkward. So if I can tahan, I will tahan. True? But what if you were to raise it up and the conversation turns from a conflict into a constructive conversation? Let me tell you what continued on with Jenny. Would you all like to hear it? Okay. So Jenny, I met her. I was very tiptoe around her because I was very scared. I wasn't sure. But after 2 months of tiptoeing around her and not being myself, I said, this is not going to work. And I thought, maybe I should bring it up to her. It was very scary. I wasn't sure how she would react. She was very senior, right? She was not my boss, but she was very senior. And definitely her experience was far more than mine. And at the back of my mind, I thought, who am I to do this? But nevertheless, I talked to her. I said, Jenny, you know, yeah, but by that time, I still call her Jenny because I feel I need to be myself. And of course, she's like, you know. So I said, you know, that first day that we met, I was very uncomfortable with the email that you sent asking me to call you Mrs. Tan. You see, in our workplace, everybody goes by first name, even the boss above the boss. And so for me, I thought by calling you Jenny, it would be a sign that I'm ready to welcome you into our environment. So when you asked me to call you Mrs. Tan, I was taken aback. And then I just paused. And there was that awkward silence for a while. Then she looked at me and she said, Sha En, you know what? When I received your email, I was very uncomfortable. Where I came from, everybody goes by surname. And so you calling me Jenny spoke to me as if you are treating me too casually. And I thought that you did not respect me. And that's why I asked you to call me Mrs. Tan. So in the fraction of that moment, I came to realize we were indeed lost in translation. Her perspective was different from my perspective. But in that moment, we agreed to move from me versus you to we. How can we continue to work together so that we can get the work that we need to done? And she said, I think it's okay if you call me Jenny one-to-one, but perhaps in front of everyone, still call me Mrs. Tan. It was a compromise. It was not a perfect answer, but there was some air clearing. If we want to communicate positively, first of all, we build trust. Second, we move from the idea of competition into collaboration. And we want to think of the bigger picture. It's not about I don't like you, but hey, how are we going to get whatever it is we have here done? How are we going to work together? So constructive conversations. Okay. Now, pillar number 3 is what I call psychological safety. Meaning that, do people feel safe when they are communicating with you? If they don't, they are likely not going to say much to you. They are going to hide things from you, right? Maybe they will even talk behind your back. Psychological safety means that someone in the communication with you needs to feel safe, needs to feel valued. So let's imagine 2 scenarios, okay? I go up to a person, it was my colleague, and I say, hey, I hand in a piece of work and the person says to me, Shan, what kind of nonsense is this? Huh? You know how many times I've given you this piece of work? But why are you giving me this? It looks like you didn't even spend any effort at all. How many of you would feel discouraged? How many of you are a bit rebellious, wish that you can just say back the same thing to them? I see the rebels in the room here. Huh? How about the other way around? I give the piece of work to someone and they look at it. Obviously, there's a mistake there. And this person says, hey, Shan, you know, that part of the report was actually very well written. I noticed something here that could be better in order for the client to better understand what we are pitching to them. How about we work together to get it sorted? Now, same message, which is telling me that the piece of work is actually not up to standard. But in example 1, what did you all hear? Did you all hear the message? Or did you hear the emotion? The emotion, you heard the anger, you heard the disappointment. In the second example, you heard the message. Communication is not only about making people feel good, it's that the message that you have must be understood in the way that you intended. Otherwise, you are lost in translation. That person wanted to tell me I could do better, but the shouting, the angry voice made me pay attention to something else. And as I walk out of that room, do you think I'm going to make changes to my report? I might do it because bo pian, but I will not do it with a willing heart. With the second one, I feel, hey, someone's got my back, and maybe now's the time to work on it. So 3 pillars of positive communication. So now I want to ask you, how many of you think that after today, you feel that you can at least try number 1, active appreciation, saying thank you a bit more, acknowledging people's contributions? Yeah, raise your hand if that's you. Okay, great. Number 2, how many of you feel that, hey, you know, if I always look at my colleagues as me versus you, we are not going to get anywhere. Maybe it's time to contemplate I say contemplate, don't need to go have the conversation yet. To contemplate, maybe bringing up a difficult conversation. How many of you? Okay, good. I see some brave souls in the audience. How about number 3? Create safety in the words that you use, in the body language that you show up in your disposition. How many of you think you can try that out? Great, great. So positive communication may have sounded very big and unclear before you stepped in here, but I hope that by the end of today, you will have more clarity. Okay, so 3 pillars. Now, communication styles is something that people ask me a lot about, right? Some people are appreciative communicators. Appreciative communicators are people who want everyone to be comfortable, who want to include everybody, who believe in harmony and collaboration, like me. I'm an appreciative communicator. But there are downsides to every single communication style. If you look there, you will see that sometimes the appreciative communicator avoids difficult conversations. And I avoided the conversation for 2 months because I want harmony. I would rather tahan than face it, right? The second style is direct communication, which is I'm going to tell you like it is. I value efficiency. I value getting to the point. I'm going to cut away all the bubble wrap around the gift that I want to give you and just give you that thing in the middle. There's no buffer. Direct communicators are very skillful at honing their message, but the downside is that sometimes they come across as lacking empathy, lacking emotion, very cold, right? Now, the third one is what we call the reserved communicator. The communicator who really needs a lot more time to think. Maybe some of you may identify this person as a procrastinator because they need to sit and look through a lot of things. And when they speak, there isn't a lot that comes out. But when it does come out, it makes a lot of sense. Reserved communicators don't often speak, but they can have powerful words. The downside of a reserved communicator is that they may often get misunderstood as being not motivated, disengaged, not able to speak up for themselves. So I want to ask you, what do you think is your style? I am definitely an appreciative communicator. Who is in the same boat as me? You think and you identify as the appreciative one. Yeah? Okay? Now, there's no right or wrong style, yeah? They're all just different styles. Okay, how many of you feel that you're more the direct one? Yeah? Okay? So there's some good things about that. How about those of you a bit more reserved one? But when you speak, wow, gem come out already. Gold come out. Everyone take notes because it's well thought through. Yeah. Right? So there are all kinds of communicators. And so what I would love for you to reflect on with the next few questions there is to first of all ask yourself, what is your most dominant style? For me, appreciative, right? But we also know that every style has a challenge and an obstacle that we need to manage. So it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about you need to know what style you are. And most importantly, how are people receiving what you are saying to them? I'm going to repeat that one more time. And if you're taking notes, you might want to write this down. It's not about which style is better than which. It's about, is what you are saying well received by the other person such that they can go ahead and do what you ask them to do? Because otherwise, why are we communicating? If we spend 20 minutes telling someone what to do, and after that the person catch no ball, you would have wasted your 20 minutes. True? How many of you have more than 24 hours a day? Bo, right? Don't have what? So when we communicate, we want to make it count. But that also means that number 2 is relevant. How might your style impact how people perceive you? If you're appreciative, people might say, oh, so sweet, so lovely. Right? That's what people always tell me, Shan, you're so nice. But at the back of my mind, I think, did they actually get my message? Or they just remember that Shan very sweet? And so, Question number 3 then becomes relevant. How do we blend in other styles to make sure that the person receiving the message really got it? So outside of my role as a speaker, a trainer, a coach, I'm also the president of the Asia Professional Speakers Singapore. And as a non-profit leader, I have to motivate a team of 10 people, right? If I am sweet and kind, they will love me, and they do. But does it mean that they actually hear what I have to say? And on top of that, sometimes our members have demands, and I can't afford to break any rules according to the Constitution. So that is when I bring in the direct style, because there are certain things that must be done according to these rules, and those are non-negotiable. So I guess what I'm saying is that you may have a dominant style, but that does not stop you from learning the other styles to use when your audience changes, right? If I'm here and I don't know all of you, then I'm my natural self. But maybe if I were to go into a room of executives who just want me to not waste their time, I may have to put on a lot more of the direct style, right? So something that for you to think about is, first, what is your dominant style? 2, how could you blend it with other styles so that your audience can best receive your message? Because that's what good communication is all about. It's not just about feeling good, but that the person takes your message and moves on with it. Okay, right. Are you all enjoying this? Good strategies, right? So I've got more to give you, okay? Now, actual words. People always ask me, what do you actually say, huh? Right? Because sometimes they get stuck. The person is saying something, then they say, I think I remember Sha'an said to do this, but actually what are the words to use? So first, one of the very practical things is to listen to understand. Many of us listen to reply. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's talking to you, they talk the first 30 seconds, you're already like, oh, I know what this person is going to say, and all you're waiting for is for them to stop so that you can reply to them. How many of you have done that before? Yes? How many of you have received that before? It's like no matter what you say, they got the same reply leh, because they already got it up here. The other challenge is, some people listen in order to give solutions, correct? You are just wanting to tell them how and what your experience, but you tell them, hey, you know, the other day, I was talking to this colleague, and then all of a sudden, right, she picked up her phone and ignored me. And then the person listening to you said, then why you never tell her to switch off her phone? That's a solution. But actually, what is the person trying to say? That she felt the colleague was pretty rude to do that. So listening is not just 1 year in, 1 year out. We are listening and seeking to understand. Because when we understand, we are better able to move forward with what is it we need to do, or we better understand the person that we are working with or interacting with. So some phrases that might be helpful for you, and if you want, you can wait until the end for you to take the photo. Okay, number 1, I want to make sure that I understand your perspective. Could you tell me a little bit more? You are not asking for a solution, you are trying to understand who they are, right? And then how about number 2? How are you seeing it? Or from your side of things, how are you looking at this? We don't ask these questions because we tend to make assumptions. But we need to ask, because that's when we actually get better understanding of what they're thinking about. Okay? How about the third one, right? What are your thoughts on this particular matter? Just because you've worked with someone for a long time does not mean you know what they're thinking about, right? We are not mind readers. We don't have a crystal ball. So we need to ask. Listen to understand. Now, the next one is even better. Clarify for clarity. Have you ever had this experience where someone told you a lot of things, you heard 25% of it, and because you didn't want to clarify, you just, oh, yeah. But then when the person left, you're like, do what? But you went to do something anyway, and then it was wrong. I don't know if you have done that before, but I have. Right? And so when we say clarify, we are not being rude. Sometimes we misunderstand that. Or if we ask too many questions, people will think that you don't know anything, right? So we clarify. We ask, hey, when I hear you say this, is this what you mean? When you use this word, what do you actually mean by that word? Could you tell me more? Just now you said XXX. Did I understand it correctly? Notice that as you clarify, you become more aware of what's the real issue that's going on and what people are actually saying to you. Okay? And then number 3 is reduce assumptions. Now, in the process of giving feedback, sometimes we have lots of assumptions. And what we want to do with communicating is that we want to reduce our assumptions, and at the same time, sometimes we need to give feedback that's not so positive. Yes? Not every feedback is positive, correct? We sometimes need to tell our colleagues some things could have been done better. But how do you do that in a way that is safe? So one of the ways is to say something like this. Hey, I noticed that you weren't able to help your colleague out this time. Is there something that you need support with? You don't assume that the person totally doesn't care about the colleague, right? So reduce assumptions when giving feedback especially. And how about the second one? The second one says, as well, is a negative feedback, so to speak, but imagine you went for a meeting with a client, it's just you and your colleague. First of all, your colleague shows up late. Second of all, they are not prepared. They haven't read the documents that's supposed to be for the client's presentation. And inside, you're like boiling blood already, right? Because you have to answer all the questions. After the meeting, you go out and say, hey, what's wrong with you? People send email you never read. Next time, the colleague will not go with the presentation with you. But what if you said this? It would really help because the client is counting on us and the company needs us to do this pitch well. It would really help if you are prepared. And if you have any issue, you can always let me know and we can work through it. Same message delivered differently will land differently, right? So again, if you are the direct style and you feel that sometimes I'm quite not emotional enough, not empathetic enough, you might want to adjust it a little bit so that the person receiving it can truly receive what you intended. Okay? So I just want to end off with asking you all, giving you some more examples. Words truly matter. So let's look at example 1, right? Need this done ASAP. Hi, you need to do this immediately. Your deadline is today. You should have handled it. Let me know when it's done. Very short, sharp sentences. How about option B? Hi, quick help needed. Appreciate your support. I know that you're juggling a lot on your plate, but I really need a quick response by today. Do you perhaps have a few minutes to support me with this? Same message, delivered differently. Now, which email would you rather receive? How many of you say A? Some people actually quite like the A because they are direct communicators themselves. How many of you prefer B? How many of you don't want to receive any email regarding work at all? I know I wouldn't want to, right? Okay, next one. Okay, which email? Mistakes in your report. I found multiple errors. This is not up to standard. Blah, 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 blah. How about B? Quick adjustments needed. I saw that there were a few issues in the report. Let's go through it, let's clarify, and let's review it together. You notice the difference in the number of sentences isn't that much more. So many people tell me, in order to be nice, I got to phrase things and very lunzun, very chonghei, got to be... Actually, it's not true. It's just tweaking a few of the words that you can say. And I believe that all of us can do it with just a little bit more thought and understanding that A good message poorly delivered might as well not deliver. A bad message well delivered, at least the message still can get through. So the question becomes, what kind of communication do you want to have, right? What is one positive communication shift that you want to act on? Today we've talked about a lot. So I'm going to run through some of them, and all I'm going to ask you to do is raise your hand if that's something you think you can do. How many of you think you can be more active in appreciating your other people? Yes. Okay? Second, how many of you think that maybe I could look more of things as collaboration rather than competition? Yep. Okay, how many of you think maybe I need to be safer in my tone? Psychological safety, right? So that people don't feel. Maybe you all don't raise hand because you're on the receiving end of the non-safe environment. See, a lot of nods. Hey, hand raising can tell me a lot of things. How many of you say, maybe I just need to spend a bit more time to listen to understand? Yeah. How many of you feel that there were lots of questions in your mind and you need to clarify for more clarity? Yes? Okay. And last of all, how many of you feel that when people say something, you make a lot of assumptions, sometimes even judgment, and maybe what you want to do is to just reduce some of those assumptions? Yeah? Great. So I've given you 6 strategies, and maybe now you have a bit more clarity on your communication style. And the truth is, good communication, positive communication, it's not just about feeling good. Of course, that's great. It produces results, it strengthens relationships, and with that, we can all thrive together. Yes or no? Yes, awesome. So thank you so much for your time. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I write about happiness, I write about leadership, I write about communication, and of course, I write about life. Right? I'd love to stay in touch, and I want to wish all the ladies in this room happy International Women's Day, and of course, a wonderful weekend to everyone. Thank you so much.
Shaw Eun Yeoh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Shaw Eun.
Thank you.